In 2025, the United States faces one of the deadliest drug crises in its history. Fentanyl, a synthetic opioid that is far stronger than heroin or morphine, has become the leading cause of overdose deaths across the country. Every year, tens of thousands of lives are lost, and communities from small rural towns to the largest cities are feeling the devastating effects. In response to this ongoing emergency, the U.S. government has passed the Halt Fentanyl Act, a law that aims to take a hard stand against the illegal production, trafficking, and use of this lethal substance. Signed in July 2025, this law represents one of the toughest anti-drug measures in recent years. Fentanyl is not new, but its rise in the illegal drug market has been rapid and deadly. Originally developed for legitimate medical use as a powerful pain reliever, fentanyl is up to 50 times stronger than heroin and 100 times stronger than morphine. Doctors sometimes use it for patients with severe pain, such as those recovering from surgery or battling cancer. But outside of hospitals, fentanyl has become a silent killer. Drug dealers often mix it into heroin, cocaine, or counterfeit pills because it is cheap to produce and extremely potent. The problem is that just 2 milligrams, a dose small enough to fit on the tip of a pencil, can be fatal. In recent years, law enforcement agencies have faced a new challenge: fentanyl analogs. These are chemical variations of fentanyl that are slightly altered to avoid classification as illegal drugs. Cartels and underground chemists have used this loophole to stay one step ahead of the law. As soon as one substance is banned, a new analog appears on the street, just different enough to escape regulation. This cat-and-mouse game has fueled the epidemic, making it nearly impossible for authorities to keep up. The Halt Fentanyl Act was designed to close that loophole permanently. Under this new law, all fentanyl-related substances are now classified as Schedule I drugs under U.S. federal law. Schedule I is the strictest category, reserved for substances considered to have no accepted medical use and a high potential for abuse. By putting fentanyl analogs in this category, the law eliminates the delay between the appearance of a new chemical variant and its illegal classification. Now, if a new form of fentanyl hits the market, it is automatically illegal. Law enforcement no longer has to wait for a lengthy approval process to respond. But the law goes further than simply banning new substances. It also introduces severe penalties for anyone caught manufacturing, distributing, or possessing significant amounts of fentanyl. Possessing 100 grams or more now triggers a mandatory minimum sentence of 10 years in federal prison. Traffickers and dealers can face even harsher penalties, depending on the amount involved and whether their actions result in death or serious injury. The goal is clear: to strike fear into those who profit from the suffering of others and to disrupt the networks responsible for flooding American streets with this deadly drug. Supporters of the Halt Fentanyl Act argue that these measures are long overdue. Overdose deaths in the United States have reached record levels, and fentanyl is the driving force behind this tragedy. Families have been torn apart, first responders are overwhelmed, and communities live in fear of a drug so potent that accidental exposure can be dangerous. Law enforcement officers and many politicians believe that strong penalties are necessary to protect the public and send a message that trafficking fentanyl will not be tolerated. For them, this law is a life-saving tool in an urgent fight. However, not everyone agrees that punishment alone will solve the problem. Public health experts, addiction specialists, and some lawmakers have voiced concerns that the Halt Fentanyl Act focuses heavily on criminalization while neglecting the public health side of the crisis. They argue that addiction is not just a legal issue, it is a medical and social one. People addicted to opioids often need treatment, counseling, and community support to break the cycle. Critics worry that by emphasizing long prison sentences, the law may fill prisons without reducing the overall demand for drugs. Without sufficient investment in treatment and prevention, they warn, the epidemic could continue in different forms. This debate reflects a larger tension in America's approach to drug policy. On one side is the belief that tough enforcement and harsh penalties are the best way to deter crime and save lives. On the other side is the view that treating addiction is a health issue and expanding access to recovery programs is the key to long-term solutions. The Halt Fentanyl Act firmly aligns with the first approach. It is designed to hit suppliers hard, to make the risk of dealing fentanyl so high that traffickers think twice before putting it on the street. In the months and years to come, the impact of this law will become clearer. Federal agencies will track arrests, seizures, and overdose rates to determine if the crackdown is working. Some communities may see immediate relief if local supply chains are disrupted. Others may find that the problem shifts rather than disappears, as drug markets often adapt to new restrictions. Policymakers may eventually need to balance the law's punitive measures with greater support for rehabilitation and prevention to achieve lasting change. For now, the Halt Fentanyl Act stands as a symbol of America's determination to fight one of its deadliest crises. It shows that the government is willing to use the full force of the law to combat the spread of synthetic opioids. Whether it will lead to a significant drop in overdose deaths or become part of a larger strategy remains to be seen. But for the families who have lost loved ones, for the police officers who face danger on the streets, and for the nation watching the epidemic unfold, the message is clear. The United States is taking a hard line against fentanyl, and the consequences for those who traffic in this deadly drug have never been more severe.